Why do highly trained cops miss most of their shots in the field? Let's explore this deadly breakdown.
Well, on a calm, static gun range, officers are incredibly accurate, passing at a 90% rate.
But out in chaotic field operations, that accuracy totally plummets. They hit targets just 25% of the time.
This new research paper reveals this massive gap actually isn't caused by a lack of funding or practice. Instead, the real root cause stems from fundamentally flawed, outdated assumptions built directly into training design. We're relying on 3 outdated assumptions about the human brain that literally just fail in the real world. First up, we treat the brain like a computer, assuming it just stores a robotic program to execute later. But the real world isn't a static paper target. It's an unpredictable, explosive, constantly changing reality. Second assumption, we mistakenly train complex skills in totally isolated silos, stripping away all real-world context. Drawing a weapon on a range is an isolated task. It doesn't build the integrated judgment required in reality. Third, we wrongly assume officers perceive a threat and then act sequentially, like waiting for a buzzer. So what's the fix? A paradigm shift called Ecological Dynamics. It connects how we adapt to complex environments. It relies on affordances. This basically means how an officer naturally recognizes real-time action opportunities during chaos. It proves sensing and doing are intertwined, and officers' movements actually help them perceive the unfolding threat. This gives us the constraints-led approach, or CLA. It prioritizes adaptable, functional goals over perfectly prescribed robotic movements. Using these 4 principles, trainers design dynamic environments, forcing officers to instinctively discover their own functional solutions. Think of it as repetition without repetition. You solve the same goal, but your exact movements constantly adapt. But does this actually work? Yes. A recent study tested this adaptable approach against traditional, rigid knife defense instructions. The results were staggering. Against a surprise attack they hadn't specifically practiced, the CLA group succeeded 81%. Because this immersive training forces officers to read the whole situation, it also naturally improves their de-escalation skills. It builds really deep, intuitive, professional judgment under pressure, way beyond what a simple textbook could ever teach. Researchers suggest completely reversing academy training, dropping trainees right into these dynamic participatory scenarios from day one. We absolutely have to stop relying on sterile, predictable training environments that fail to prepare officers for chaos. Which leaves us with a huge question. Can we really afford to keep training for the range instead of reality?